Monsters Inc. is a near perfect film. It's a delightful story with a sweet message that explores the creative question, why do kids claim to see monsters come into their closet at night when they go to sleep? It's a great concept and is one of the reasons why it's my favourite Pixar film. And the ending to the film is very bitter and sweet and delivers on that sad yet happy ending that Pixar films are now very well known for. In fact, this is the film that basically started this way of ending films that they use a lot now. And along with this nice ending, the film manages to tie up all of the loose ends and leaves the audience on a satisfying note. And because the film doesn't really leave open any unanswered questions, that is probably the reason why we got a prequel instead of a sequel. And the prequel, Monsters University, is a pretty good film in itself. It's nowhere near as good as Monsters Inc., but it's still alright. But the sequel, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. There's a new Disney Plus series coming out called Monsters at Work, but the reason why Pixar probably haven't made a sequel to Monsters Inc. is because there really is nowhere for the story to go. And I did agree, and I say I did because I think I have come up with a possible idea for a Monsters Inc. sequel that builds on the world that was already established in the first one and raises the stakes very high and explores the difficult relationship between humans and monsters. So enjoy, this is my sequel pitch for Monsters Inc. 2. The film starts off hundreds of years into the past and shows how monsters got to where they are today. It shows humans with torches storming down the street hunting the monsters while the monsters are hiding in the shadows. We then show a montage of how the monsters got more developed and skilled through the years and eventually built Monsters Inc. The film then picks up 1 year after Monsters Inc. Sully and Mike are going through their normal lives with running Monsters Inc. and where they now make kids laugh instead of scream, solving the energy crisis. Sully is visiting Boo when he can and is almost acting as a father figure for her because her father was never really around. Their lives are pretty normal and great until one workday, Sully and Mike enter a child's bedroom and a loud siren starts to go off in Monsters Inc. A large monster in a grey overcoat whose face cannot be seen pulls a red switch and all of the monsters who entered kids' bedrooms can't get out. All of the doors are locked from the inside and out. Sully and Mike open the wardrobe, but all that's in there is the regular wardrobe and not the way back into Monsters Inc. Sully and Mike are in a state of terror and fear and run through the bedroom door where they come face to face with the parents of the child. The parents of the child are calling the police, and Sully and Mike make their way out into the city street. They weren't the only monsters who got trapped in the human world. At least 90 different monsters entered the human world and are now stuck there in all different parts of the world. Police cars are speeding down the street, helicopters are in the air shining lights out onto the street, and everyone is asked to stay indoors. Mike and Sully hide in the shadows and make sure they find their way to a dark forest park just across from the city. Monsters haven't been hunted down like this and been a threat since the dark days, and they must learn how to survive in the human world without being seen. Up ahead, Mike and Sully see a purple monster from work wandering the streets. Before Mike and Sully can warn them, a van pulls up and the main officer in charge of the capture of the monsters locks him up in the van with the help of armed officers. Sully and Mike are horrified and know they have to be careful or they'll end up like that. For the middle act of the film, we show all the crazy stuff that Mike and Sully get up to in the human world, and this can lead to some funny and heart-racing scenes as they try to survive. But everywhere they go is too dangerous, and they always find themselves nearly getting captured by the main officer. They know if they're not smart, they'll be captured. They can't stay in the open, so they have to go to the one place where they know they'll be safe: Boo's. They head to Boo's house, and they are greeted by Boo in a friendly way. She is not scared of them, and Sully and Mike enjoy her company. At night, they hide out in her garden shed while trying to figure out how to get back to Monsters Inc. This can lead to Sully and Mike getting into many fights as they grow as characters trying to survive, but also trying to figure out where are the monsters that got captured and being held. One night, they are playing with Boo in her room where they hear the main officer's voice just outside Boo's room. How did they know that Sully and Mike were here? They quickly hide in the wardrobe and the officer comes into Boo's room. Boo runs up into the officer in an excited voice and yells, "Daddy." Sully and Mike gasp in horror. This was Boo's father all along. Boo's father was always working and hardly ever came home, and Sully was always being the father figure that Boo never had. But apparently she does, and it's the guy who's trying to kill them. But Boo's father didn't seem mean and scary like they knew him to be. He was kind and gentle to Boo, which confused Sully. Boo's father asked if she would like to come to work with him tomorrow. Sully and Mike knew this was going to be their only chance to be able to rescue the other monsters, and they might just be able to perform one of the biggest scares ever that might just get them back to Monsters Inc. Now, into Act 3, the finale. Sully and Mike follow Boo and her father to work that morning, and it being so early. They get to the workplace and they make their way to where the monsters are being held. Sully and Mike manage to scare the security guards so good they pass out, and Mike and Sully make their way through the big tin roller door. They find all the monsters in their own cages and set them free. A dozen other guards make their way through the back door. The monsters get ready to perform a scare so loud it blows open the massive tin roller door, and on the other side is the Monsters Inc. opening door. Sully and Mike and the rest of the other monsters make their way over to the other side. The humans stare at the monsters in shock, and suddenly a massive fight starts in between the middle of both sides of the door, half in the human world and half in the monster world. Monsters fighting humans, and as Sully stares back at what is happening, he knows they can't go back to their old ways. He quickly shuts the massive roller door, leaving the monsters safe back in their own world. A meeting is held that day at Monsters Inc., and it is decided that monsters will no longer be able to visit kids, and they'll have to come up with some way to harness energy for their world after exposing the monster world. Sully knows this is probably for the best. He learns in the human world that monsters will always be scared of humans, and humans will always be scared of monsters, but they can't live and interact in the same world. But Sully is sad knowing that he'll never be able to properly say goodbye to Boo. So on one last risky move, he turns back one of the doors 1 week, something that has never been done before or attempted until this point. He is sent back to Monsters Inc. 1 week in the past, and dresses in a grey overcoat so he cannot be seen properly by other monsters or himself. He pulls a red switch to cause a distraction, and in doing so he realises that time works in a closed loop, and it was him all along that pulled the switch to trap the monsters in the human world, and himself. Meaning that things were always going to have to stay this way from now on. Before the doors locked and closed, he had 2 minutes to say goodbye to Boo, before he trapped himself in the human world again for a week. He enters Boo's room for one last time and has a teary goodbye to Boo, knowing that it would be his last. He goes to leave Boo's room and she smiles and gives him a big hug before they both go their separate ways. And there you go, there is my sequel pitch for Monsters Inc. 2. If I was to ever write it, comment your thoughts down below and comment any other Pixar films you would like me to make sequel pitches for. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big thumbs up. And I'll see you next Friday.